Hey everyone, Felipe here. Welcome to another Tower Saviors card review video. In this video, I'll be taking a look at 3 of the non-jackpot cards from the Saint Seiya 80s chapter collaboration seal. I'll be taking a look at Pandora, Orphe, and Gemini Kanon because these are the 3 cards that don't really have any team skills and only have their active skills. So I decided to group them all into one single video. So without further ado, let's get started with Commander of Inferno Pandora. This is going to be a Dark Human card with a CD6 skill and the following effect. For 2 rounds, electrify all enemies and alter their attribute into fire. Recovery basic value becomes 0, and Human and God attack increases by 2.5. In my opinion, this card is actually pretty useful. Electrifying enemies, it is going to be situational, but there are certain enemies that require to be controlled or even electrified in order for your damage to go through. Additionally, changing their attributes into fire is also going to be really useful against enemies that only take damage from their weakness or require you to dissolve certain attributes on the puzzle shield. For example, it could be a same attribute puzzle shield, but if they have an same attribute nullifying combo skill, it makes it really hard to break the puzzle shield. However, if you change their attribute, you are able to break the puzzle shield easily without triggering the combo nullifying enemy skill. So this is going to be the first time we have both electrifying and attribute changed in the same skill. Usually electrifying enemies doesn't really change the enemy's attribute, so being able to pair them up could be useful in the future. Right now, we haven't encountered an enemy that has both like a status shield plus attribute change requirement of sorts, so we haven't had a need for it, but having these 2 things combined in one card could potentially come in pretty useful in the future. For the second skill, Team Recovery basic value becomes 0, is also pretty useful, also very situational though. But Madhead has recently been including enemy skills that will reverse your recovery, and the more you recover, the more damage you're going to take. So by reducing your recovery to 0, you avoid taking damage from these types of enemies, and you can kill them more easily. And the third one is going to just be a regular attack bonus effect. 2.5 is actually pretty good. It is a pretty high amount of damage and a very generous multiplier for your attack. So I do think this third effect is pretty beneficial for her as well. CD6 is going to be pretty standard, pretty fast. So in my opinion, this card's active skill is pretty good and definitely worth keeping 1 copy in your inventory for now or in the future as well, because she doesn't have any requirements on her active skill and you can slot her in to future teams as well. Oh yeah, moving on, we have Saint of Lyra, Orphe. This is a water human card with a CD9 skill and has the following effect. This skill can only be activated if there are 3 or more saints in the team, but you are able to clear all additional effects, and for 3 rounds you can hypnotize all enemies. The hypnosis effect will go away if you dissolve heart runes in the first batch, which is not that bad because you can always stack your heart runes and avoid removing the hypnosis effect. So overall, I think this skill is just okay. It definitely has some uses because there aren't that many cards in the game that can hypnotize enemies. Right now we only have a handful of cards, so I think less than 5 cards that can hypnotize enemies, which means that if you encounter a hypnosis shield or an enemy that only takes damage when they're hypnotized, then this card will definitely come into play. However, the 3 or more saints in the team will severely limit his flexibility in future teams because you have this requirement in team building, and it will also limit your choices for a leader as well as the team members that you're running. Clearing all additional effects in play, it is really nice. CD9 is a little bit long. You can bring, I don't know, Flores, and she is going to be a CD8 effect removal, pretty easy. And then you can always have her EP skill afterwards to activate that again. Other cards that can remove effects, you can bring Marcosius, which is a CD6. So CD9 effect removal is not that great. It is probably going to be pretty useful in a Saints team, just because you can run 3 or more Saints to activate these effects. And definitely for those hypnosis shields in the future, if they come up or become more common, this card will be one of the few cards that can remove or hypnotize enemies so you can deal damage to them. However, CD9 is pretty long in my opinion, and I mean, it will be useful to have in your inventory, but I don't think it is that great of an active skill, especially with all the activation requirements that you have to have. So once the Saints team falls out of the meta, satisfying this 3 or more Saints could be a little bit harder to achieve in the future. But yeah, so overall, definitely the skill is worth getting one off. Just it will be very situational, so I would recommend to just get this card, keep it in your inventory, and then level it up if you ever need it. But for now, I would say keep it in your inventory for your index and just in case. So, moving forward, we have Gemini Kanon. This card has 2 active skills. It is a light human card. Um, yeah, it is a light human card with 2 active skills. The first active skill is a CD7 skill with the following effect. By tapping a runestone in the magic circle of elements, you explode that type of runestones to generate light runes, and you can use this effect 3 times to tap or to get rid of 3 different types of runestones. For 1 round, you get a time tunnel, and the character's attack increases by 3. So CD7 time tunnel, pretty good, and the fact that you can get rid of 3 different types of runestones is also going to be really powerful. This will give you a bunch of attacking runes and also reduce the number of runes that you have on the board, which will make it easier to spin and really easy to clear a lot of combos and get rid of all the runes on the board. In my opinion, this is going to be a really good skill to pair up with Seiya, because Seiya, you do get the bonus effect if you dissolve all 12 locked positions. So if you have less runes to dissolve, or you have a giant chunk of light runes, it will be easier to just satisfy these or dissolve runes at the 12 positions, which means that you can trigger Seiya's team skill more easily. In my opinion, this card will pair up really nicely with Seiya. CD7 is pretty good, so basically any card that uses light runes as attacking runes could benefit from this card, just because he is generating so many attacking runes and also getting rid of potentially board debuffs, electrify runes, or anything, because you get the choice of which attributes you get to explode. And because it is exploding and not converting, it also bypasses conversion block. So in my opinion, this first active skill is going to be really flexible and really useful for your team building and for your light teams. Additionally, time tunnel, always nice. Again, you can use the time tunnel to get all 12 positions in a Seiya team, so that is going to be really beneficial. And I've said this before in all my other videos, time tunnel is arguably one of the best active skills in the game, because it allows you to easily form a lot of combos, bypass board debuffs, like ignore sticky trail and burn trail, like mask trail, etc. And then you can also arrange the rooms however you want, which is really powerful in my opinion. But yeah, moving on to his second skill, it is also a CD7 skill, and this one's actually pretty simple. For 2 rounds, ignite all enemies and alter their attribute into dark, and attack of affected enemies gets reduced by minus 70%. In my opinion, this effect is pretty simple, pretty good. Igniting enemies, situational, but might be necessary if you encounter an enemy with Ignite Shield. And if I am not mistaken, this is the first card that will turn the enemies into dark after they're ignited. Most cards turn the enemies into fire, but being able to change them into dark, not that great of a difference. However, if you're running a light team, you will have elemental advantage against dark enemies, which means you will be dealing more damage. So running Gemini Kanon and igniting enemies and turning them into dark will effectively be a damage increase, because you will have that elemental advantage. And yeah, changing attributes, like I said before with Pandora, it is pretty good and pretty situational, but when it counts, it is going to be really powerful as well. Additionally, you do reduce the enemy's attack by 70%, which is a quite significant damage reduction, and this will allow you to survive a little bit longer. And because it is attack reducing, it will also save you against enemies that ignore defensive shields, so phantom enemies that ignore damage reduction and tumbler, will still have their attack reduced, which means that you will be potentially able to survive their hits even if they ignore your defense, because their attack is being reduced instead of increasing your own defense, if that makes sense. But yeah, so in my opinion, Gemini Kanon is actually a pretty good card. Dual active skills is very flexible. The first skill also gives you that flexibility in choosing which runestones to dissolve, or I mean to explode, and that is going to be really powerful because you can tailor it to whichever enemy you're facing. In terms of team building, definitely a Seiya team, but he could also fit in a Javanor team or any, maybe even Nesoi, like uh, any light card or light leader basically. Uh, so in my opinion, this is going to be one of the more useful non-jackpot cards in this series because of the flexibility and the dual active skills. Yeah, so in my opinion, these three cards are pretty good. Pandora, CD6 pretty fast and pretty useful as well. Orphe, a little bit less useful. CD9 is really long, but the hypnotize effect is very rare in the game, so it might have some use in the future. And Gemini Kanon, a really good card for light teams and definitely worth getting one copy at dual max. Man, that's all I had to say about these three cards. Please let me know in the comments if I missed anything or if I said anything wrong. And as always, stay tuned on my YouTube channel for more Tower of Saviors content. For now, stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you next time. Bye everyone!